Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. I got a really exciting episode here today. We're talking about 17 fantasy football hot takes. Yes, like super hot, like crazy hot, but at the same end, yes, they're really intense, they're really hot, but at the same end, I make them somewhat obtainable. So there's some thought process behind this. It's not like, okay, I just don't like a player and, I just gonna do a hot take because I don't like him. No, this is real hot takes. This is exciting. I'll give you an example. Like number 9 is Ryan Tannehill beats Lamar Jackson in fantasy points. I know it sounds crazy, but stick with me. It's an exciting show. I'm gonna explain why I'm going with these hot takes. So it's not just like, hey, this is the hot take. Let's just leave it at that. No, we're going to back it up with stats, facts, situations that the players are currently in. What goes up must come down. Everything is in here for you guys. Exciting show. So 17 hot takes, okay? Before I get into this show, I got a couple pieces of fun homework for you that benefits you guys significantly. Number 1, we're creating a network called Fan to Fan Network. There is a link here below to the Twitch. I'll also link the Instagram page as well here on YouTube, or just if you're in the car, pull over right now. If you're eating, if you're in the shower, get out of the shower right now, okay? Now, it's funny because I did a video in the shower. If you're not following my Insta, follow it at Fantasy Football Counselor. I did a video, I'm in the shower, and I basically put in my story mode, and I put, where are you watching this? So people had the craziest replies to this. They said, I'm in the shitter, I'm actually in the shower myself, I'm driving, Listen, don't be driving and watching my Instagram stories, okay? Listen, what you gotta do is pull over right now, follow at Fan to Fan Network. That's Fan, F-A-N-T-O, Fan Network, Fan to Fan Network, or FTFN, guys. You'll find it on Insta. And also the Twitch channel. We're creating something that's never been created. It's a network brought to you by the top influencers for every NFL team. So these are guys on YouTube putting out content, via blood, sweat, and tears. These guys work hard every single day, giving you raw, real content. Get rid of the white collar BS crap. The future of fantasy analysis and NFL news analysis is here. Fan to Fan Network. We're launching the site in July, and the Twitch channel should be up and running in and around August. Guys, this is super exciting. So make sure you guys are following on Twitch so you guys are the first people on the ground floor here, and we're going to be featuring you guys a lot as fans on the network. It's going to be great. This is a takeover coming on right now. All right, so follow that. And also, guys, very important, get the 16-round draft solution. This is the game changer. You're going to have an optimal roster to crush your friends this year in fantasy football. I'm telling you guys, sleepers, breakouts, all the optimal players there, and all the bad players are omitted. Get the 16-round draft solution. Guys, I implore you guys. I mean, literally, it's like having me at the draft with you, a guy that lives and breathes fantasy football. I genuinely, and I mean this in a humble way, I do this better than anybody else. And again, that's not coming across arrogant. That's coming across with complete confidence and conviction that nobody will outdo me in the fantasy football industry. Nobody has an understanding and a grasp of how to dominate your leagues. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I'm really good at what I do, and I want to deliver that to you guys so you guys can crush your leagues and embarrass your friends and give them the unfair advantage. TheFantasyFootballCounselor.com. Get the 16-round draft solution or a link below. All right, let's get to these 17 hot takes. Oh my goodness, I'm excited to dive in. A lot of energy. And now we're at the end of June. Father's Day is now done. We're moving towards July. And now I'd say it's almost full flow fantasy football season. July 1st hits, that's it. It's officially game on. We're heading towards the NFL season. Everything, hopefully with the world situation, everything goes well. Preseason could be coming in August. So we are just over a month out from really diving into this. And I know you guys are excited. So give us a thumbs up to tell me I'm excited for football, and leave your fantasy questions below. I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. Questions below, thumbs up. It means the world to me, and get 16 rounds. All right, first hot take. All right, let's build it up here. All right, now this one is a little bit of a hot take, but it's more of just like, I think it's just going to happen, right? And it's just going to get hotter as we go along with these takes, so stick with me. Nick Chubb will bust significantly. Currently, right now, he's sitting 8th right now amongst running backs. And I easily say this guy finishes outside the top 15. Okay, that's a pretty big significance. That's almost double where he's sitting now. So he's 8th, 16. Let's say he finishes 16th, okay, amongst running backs. So he's going to, finish significantly below where he's being drafted. So if you draft a person 8th, you assume he's going to finish at least 8th, right? And he's coming off late first round, okay? Nick Chubb is coming off late first round, early second in a 12-person, 1-point PPR league. Listen, bottom line is, I've talked about it in many videos. I won't elaborate on this too much. But But I will tell you, Nick Chubb is in a major committee. At minimum, it's going to be 60-40, 50-50. Kareem Hunt will get worked. He'll be used as a receiver on third downs. The guy catches the ball a lot. Kareem Hunt outscored Nick Chubb 6 out of the 8 games in PPR. So if already we have a window. We've seen 8 weeks of these guys playing together. Out of those 8 weeks, Kareem Hunt outscoring Nick Chubb. Why are you drafting Nick Chubb in the first round? Are you nuts? Come on, man. Think logically. Get yourself a guy that's primed for a workload. A guy like even Josh Jacobs is primed for a workload at the end of the first round, okay? I would not touch Nick Chubb. I'd rather have Todd Gurley than Nick Chubb. Todd Gurley's primed for a great season. He's the full workhorse running back. And he doesn't have Kareem Hunt breathing down his neck. You got to look at the gaps, okay? You got to look at the gaps between the running backs. If a running back is far better than the other running back, grab him, right? If the gap is huge. But if the gap is pretty narrow, it's close and it's tight, and they're like, okay, who's better? Maybe, Kareem Hunt was the rushing leader in 2017. People forget that, and they're pretty close in talent. I just stay away from that, okay? Because Kareem Hunt will eat. Unless Kareem Hunt is the water boy, that's the only way I would draft Nick Chubb. So that's the first hot take. Hot take number 2, okay? Alexander Mattison will be the starter this season and will keep the job. Okay, what do I mean by that? So Dalvin Cook's already threatened a holdout. If Alexander Mattison comes in, and I know Alexander Mattison will do well once he's got that opportunity. If Dalvin Cook is stupid enough to hold out, Alexander Mattison comes in. So this is the hot take. Alexander Mattison will be the starter and will keep the job in Minnesota. So if Alexander Mattison gets the start and Dalvin Cook holds out, takes the job. Another thing that'll happen, another scenario here is Dalvin Cook plays, okay, whether he gets paid, now he's incentivized, whatever, or he doesn't get paid, he's still hungry, whatever. Bottom line is Dalvin Cook gets hurt. Alexander Mattison at some point in the season, first week, 5th week, 10th week, will get the start and will steal the job. Bottom line is get Alexander Mattison on all your rosters. This guy is the starter there in Minnesota. And again, if you look at it, okay, this isn't just Joe talking, pie in the sky here. Alexander Mattison had 100 attempts, had over 400 yards. If you project that out, 4.6 yards per carry. If you project that out over the 250 attempts that Dalvin Cook had, right? He had over 1,100 yards. Mattison would have done just as good, if not better, than Dalvin Cook, okay? Trust me, there's a reason Madison's on that team. There's a reason why these teams are getting Jonathan Taylor when they have Marlon Mack. They're getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire when they have Damian Williams. They know that they don't have to pay these guys, A.J. Dillon for the Packers when they have Aaron Jones. They know that these running backs ahead of them, they only have X amount of years for shelf life. Decline's imminent, injuries happen, they got to cover themselves, and the guys they're bringing in are even more talented than the guys they currently have. Yes, A.J. Dillon could outperform Aaron Jones, we don't know. Jonathan Taylor, clearly the better running back over Marlon Mack. So you got to look at the situation here, okay, guys, and I see Mattison being the starter here. All right, hot take number 3. This one's a good one here for you. DeAndre Hopkins will bust and finish outside of the top 10 in fantasy points amongst wide receivers, okay? So Hopkins will bust for fantasy football 2020. That is my prediction. He is now being drafted top 5 amongst wide receivers, coming off late first round, typically. Now, I'm going to stay away, and I'll tell you why. Very simple to me. There was 2 receivers that had the bulk of the volume last year with the Arizona Cardinals. So first and foremost, let's talk about, Hopkins being on a new team. New quarterback, needs to build that rapport. Since the world situation has brought us to a point where we were staying home more, Hopkins may not have had as much time to build that rapport with Kyler Murray. That could be number one, and a new team, right? Number 2, guys, listen. Like I said, the top 2 receivers that got the bulk of the volume were Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. And they're still there. They are still there with the Arizona Cardinals. So I look at the situation, and I'm looking at it like, okay, Hopkins, for him to succeed and become top 5 amongst wide receivers, he's got to have at least 150 targets. Larry Fitzgerald, who's the wide receiver 1, maxed out at 109 targets. Okay, that's interesting. Christian Kirk had 107 targets. So that's 220 some odd targets there. Okay, but that's between 2 guys that are still there and have that rapport with Kyler Murray. So let's say Hopkins comes in. Now somehow Kyler pulls it out of his ass, gets another 100 targets available. So then, 50 for, how's that going to work? I'm just trying to think of mathematically how that's going to work. So, Kyler has to throw maybe 100 more times towards, the receivers. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense. So let's just say Fitzgerald sees 50 less targets, so does Christian Kirk. There's 100 targets going over to Hopkins. That's still not 150 targets, not to mention Drake catches the ball in the backfield. They acquired and drafted Eno Benjamin, at running back as well. There's going to be, Chase Edmonds is there, catches the ball. I don't see enough targets being there, so I don't think it's a talent thing. I genuinely think it's a volume thing. So anyway, my reasoning, I just don't feel comfortable with this. I'm not drafting Hopkins. He will bust, and he will finish outside the top 10 in fantasy points amongst wide receivers. Hot take. All right, here's another hot take for you. Hot take number 4. Juju will not be the wide receiver 1 in Steel Town with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Deontay Johnson or Claypool will emerge. Listen, Deontay Johnson's shown some great flashes of this guy could be a really good wide receiver, and he didn't have Big Ben thrown to him. Claypool was there as well. Juju, we don't know if he can really handle the double coverage without Antonio Brown being there. We saw a decline last year. Deontay, Claypool, I definitely consider grabbing these guys. They could emerge as the wide receiver 1. A very viable hot take here. Could happen. Hot take number 5 here. Todd Gurley will easily finish in the top 10. Currently sitting 14th amongst running backs. You're saying, Joe, that's not really that hot. Well, it is, because I'm telling you guys right now, guys like Aaron Jones, guys like Joe Mixon, guys like Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, all being drafted ahead of Todd Gurley, pushing him out of the top 10. But Todd Gurley will finish in the top 10, possibly even top 5, get back into the form he was back a couple years ago. Love Todd Gurley, volume opportunity. He will finish in the top 10. That's a pretty hot take. It could get hotter if I said top 5, but I'm reserving that for the next one. Hot take number 6, David Johnson finishes in the top 5 amongst running backs in fantasy points, currently sitting 20th right now. Can you believe this? Todd Gurley sitting at 14th, David Johnson sitting at 20th. David Johnson in a prime position to succeed with the Texans. They've invested a lot of capital in him, trading off DeAndre Hopkins, their top receiver, and getting David Johnson, because again, there's only a handful of running backs that can really perform on an optimal level and that have a minimal committee. David Johnson is one of those guys. Had a series of just unlucky situations, and it wasn't even injury. The one year was injury, and that was the wrist injury a couple years ago. But literally what it came down to was Kingsbury benching him last season. So believe me when I say this, the opportunity is there. The talent is there for David Johnson. He will emerge. Okay, he will emerge as a top 5 running back. He's got the volume. Carlos Hyde had over 1,000 rushing yards last year, over 242 attempts, and 6 touchdowns, okay? That's Carlos Hyde. He sucks. So David Johnson, going to line up as a receiver, do really well in the passing game, and be utilized in all goal line work. David Johnson will eat and finish top 5. That's my hot take. Number 6. Aaron Rodgers will emerge back to 2016 form. If you guys forgot 2016 form, we're talking 40 touchdowns. We're talking over 4,428 passing yards. We're talking 380 fantasy points. I don't think he's really going to hit 2016 form, but it's a hot take. But he'll come pretty damn close if he gets in the groove. Listen, this guy's getting a lot of, negative talk. He's done. He's washed up. The future's arrived. Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, they're the future. Understandably so. They are the future, and they're great. But guys like Aaron Rodgers and Phillip Rivers have a lot of chip on their shoulder, right? They're sitting there saying, oh, man, I am good, though. So Aaron Rodgers, this is the year. He's got to emerge. You've got, they've drafted Love right behind him at quarterback, breathing down his neck. So I think Aaron Rodgers makes a statement this year and goes back to 2016 form and emerges as a top 3 quarterback. That's a super hot take, but I kind of like the ceiling with Aaron Rodgers this year. All right, hot take number 8. Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl and easily finishes as a top 10 quarterback. Now listen, he finished 11th last year amongst quarterbacks, sitting at 11th. It's not a big stretch when you look at him finishing top 10, because that's very viable, especially with the weapons that he's got with Godwins and Evans. But it is pretty, it's pretty hot to, almost certain, guarantee that he's going to win the Super Bowl. This is it, guys. Brady's either going to win a Super Bowl this year or the next year, then he's going to retire. He's going to win one more Super Bowl. So it's a combination. This is a hot take with a combination, okay, which is my hot take number 8. Tom Brady not only finishes top 10 amongst quarterbacks in fantasy points, but also wins the Super Bowl. There's a hot take. Number 9, this one I kind of gave you a sneak preview with this one, but Ryan Tannehill finishes with more fantasy points than Lamar Jackson. Oh my goodness. Yes, injuries are included because Lamar Jackson runs a heck of a lot, over 1,200 rushing yards. I talked about this. He puts himself at risk. I talked about this in my other shows. Now, he had, I think, more rushing yards than everybody except for like 5 or 6 running backs. I think the only people he didn't have more rushing yards are like Henry, Chubb, I think there's a couple other guys, Zeke, there's a couple other guys, I think Chris Carson. It's only like a handful of running backs he didn't finish with more rushing yards than. So, actually, I can pull that up for you guys right now. So the only people that he had that had more rushing yards than him were Carson, Zeke, McCaffrey, Chubb, and Henry. 5 running backs. I have that in front of me. So, I mean, when you look at Lamar, he puts himself at risk. So I'm not predicting injury, and I hope he doesn't get injured. I cringe every time he runs out. I love the guy. But what I'm saying is that Tannehill, if you project his numbers out, had he played the first 6 games, would have finished top 3, had over about 330 fantasy points, completely, okay? He would have been in and around Dak Prescott numbers. And if you project a decline with Lamar, now they brought in Dobbins there at running back. I'm assuming they want him to run the ball a little bit more with Ingram. I think they want to run the ball more with their running backs, not so much. They want to preserve Lamar. They understand he is their guy. He's the face of the brand. So when you look at Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to decline in regards to rushing attempts. And it's a lose-lose situation. If he runs a lot, he gets injured potentially, right? If he runs less, he's going to lose fantasy points because he's running less. He's going to have less rushing yards, less rushing touchdowns, etc., right? So I think there's going to be a decline with Lamar and a major increase with Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill now settled with the offense. A.J. Brown stepping up. Geno Smith, great O-line, Derrick Henry there. I like Ryan Tannehill this year to step up. Now, I'm not saying go draft Ryan Tannehill in the second round. What I'm saying is get him as a backup quarterback with upside and don't invest in quarterbacks early. I'm not paying a second round pick on Lamar Jackson. Just not going to do it, guys. It's way too early. Same thing happened with Pat Mahomes. He had a decline after his pinnacle year. What goes up must come down. How do you top last year's numbers? It's going to be very hard to do. All right, number 10. Drew Lock, hot take number 10. Drew Lock will shock the world and finish top 10 amongst quarterbacks in fantasy points. He's currently sitting 23rd, and everybody is sleeping on Drew Lock. He's got great weapons, great release, good arm, one of the top prospects coming into the draft a couple years ago. Listen, this guy is going to be solid. He's got a lot of weapons. He's got Noah Fant, he could gravitate to a tight end who can catch the ball. He's got Melvin Gordon on the backfield who can catch the ball. He's got, who's he got? Cortland Sutton, big red zone target for him right there. They got Jerry Jeudy, one of the best route runners, on paper coming out of the NFL draft this year. Guys, listen, this guy's loaded. He's going to be solid. As long as he performs, gets the ball, gets the timing on with the receivers, gets good pass protection, this guy could really boom and finish top 10. Get him late in your drafts as a backup quarterback as well. Love the upside. Number 11. This one's an interesting one here. And I kind of opened this up here, but a tight end that you draft in your fantasy draft. Follow this, okay? Hot take number 11. A tight end that you draft in your fantasy draft after the 10th round will finish top 3 amongst tight ends in fantasy points. Let me repeat that. A tight end that you draft, a Hawkinson, a Fant, a Gesicki, a guy like that you get after the 10th round, okay? These guys sometimes fall after the 10th round. A guy like that you draft in 10th round will finish top 3 amongst tight ends. Listen, this happens all the time. It happened with Kittle. It happens all the time where you get a tight end later, okay, and they emerge. I remember a couple years ago, everyone was saying, everybody was saying, Joe, you got to get Gronkowski round 1. I'm like, no. Give me George Kittle like 10th round. I'm okay, right? You get yourself a safe tight end, you back him up. And I talk about all this in the 16-round draft session, how to do this properly. And, one of these guys could easily break out. So why not load up on a couple tight ends? One of them could hit. As long as I get 10 points out of my tight ends, I don't care. Because you only have 1 or 2 tight ends that really emerge, a Kelsey, a Kittle. Other than that, it's like downhill after that. Ertz maybe, but it's downhill, right? So again, one of these guys could emerge top 3, whether it be Gesicki, Fant, Hawkinson, Geno Smith. And these guys are sitting pretty low on their ranking. Gesicki's 14th amongst tight ends right now, consensus rankings. Hawkinson 17th, Geno Smith 15th. It's crazy. Fant, I believe, is 13th, and one of these guys will emerge. Which one? Well, why don't you get 16 rounds and find out? I have a list of that, which ones to draft and when to draft them. All right, number 12. We have 17 total. This is getting fun. Kenny Golladay will finish top 3 amongst wide receivers. Well, Joe, that's not really a hot take. Well, it is because there's so many wide receivers that are ranked ahead of him. So Example, Hopkins. I think Kenny Golladay has a better season than Hopkins. Now, Kenny Golladay is actually sitting 7th amongst wide receivers right now in the consensus. Finished 9th last year. Had a good year, 116 targets, 65 receptions, over 1,000 yards. In fact, 1,190 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns. That's with Stafford being out. A healthy Stafford could mean good numbers for Golladay, and that's why I like him and Hawkinson. I definitely like Golladay. He's going to be a solid guy. He's going to get a lot of volume and a primary target for a healthy Matt Stafford. Love him, and my hot take is he finishes top 3 amongst wide receivers. Hot take number 13. David Montgomery will finish top 10 amongst running backs. Listen, I've been talking to a physical therapist that knows David Montgomery personally. Has been to his house, and David Montgomery is working on his top end speed, working on his explosiveness, because that's something that he lacked, and it wasn't fully his fault. He faced some stacked boxes. He was coming off the field when he was gaining momentum on third downs. He was being pulled off the field by Nagy, trying to be too cute with his play calling. Listen, he still finished 24th last year, 889 yards, 3.7 yards per carry. That's going to come up. He's going to do a lot better this year. I think they have to, right? Nagy's on the hot seat. They got to run the ball. They got to mix things up. And David Montgomery working on his speed, working on, work ethic is there. And they didn't draft anybody else, which means they believe in David Montgomery. I love him. He's going to get all the rushing work, 240 plus attempts. That's going to go up. I'm looking at a 260-point floor. And David Montgomery finishes top 10. Number 14. This one's an interesting one because everyone's talking about these, this wide receiver class. Who's going to emerge? Who's going to do it? Who's going to get the most points? Who's going to be rookie of the year? Who's the wide receiver? Is it CeeDee Lamb? Is it Judy? Who's the guy? Well, my hot take is Justin Jefferson finishes with the most rookie wide receiver fantasy points amongst wide receivers. Okay, let me repeat that. So out of all the wide receivers that came in, the Judys, the Lambs, the Rigor, all these guys that came in, Jefferson will finish with more fantasy points than all the rookie wide receivers. That's my hot take. I think he's a plug and play. And if you look at a couple years ago, Diggs had, I think, over 150 targets. And Diggs had a bit of an off year last year, understandably. So, they were a mess right there in the passing game. But I think this year, Jefferson could really emerge here amongst all rookie wide receivers and be the top point getter. He's a plug and play. I mean, they need him. They need him off the bat. They have to use him. I'm not high on rookie wide receivers the first year coming out, but Jefferson could make an immediate impact and possibly score more. I mean, I love Judy. I love CeeDee Lamb, but they've got a lot of competition. I love CeeDee Lamb. When I heard he was going to the Cowboys, I was really upset. He's there with Gallup, who could be a wide receiver one on his own, in his own right. They've got Cooper, right? It's just too much. So Jefferson's a guy that could really emerge. All right, 15. Okay, going back to David Johnson finishing top 5. Let's do another David Johnson one. I mean, it's kind of common sense going back to number 6 where I said David Johnson finished top 5, but it's not really common sense because it sounds better when I say it this way. David Johnson will outscore Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, and Alvin Kamara. He will outscore those guys in fantasy points. Not combined, but he will outscore them in fantasy points. He will do better than all those guys in fantasy points. That's my hot but realistic take. And the fact of the matter is, the reason I picked those guys to do this example is because all those guys are sitting in the top 10 amongst consensus rankings, and he will outscore every single one of those guys. Injuries are included. So don't say, well, Joe, Dalvin Cook got injured. That's not fair. That's all part of it. You're drafting it predicated on assuming Dalvin Cook will get injured again. That's part of it. Yes, I'm predicting injury because he's been injured 3 years in a row. What's to say he's not going to be injured again? Okay, so that's my prediction. Odds are likely Dalvin Cook will get injured, and that's why Dalvin Cook played really well, and that's why Dalvin Cook wants to get paid, because Dalvin Cook knows Dalvin Cook sucks, and Dalvin Cook knows that Dalvin Cook's going to get injured, so I'm staying away. All right, 16, we're almost done here. Again, get that 16-round draft solution. Leave your questions below. Kareem Hunt will outscore Nick Chubb in PPR points by the end of the season. Yes, he outscored him 6 out of the 8 weeks when they played together. So what's to say he's not going to outscore him for the entire season? Kareem Hunt will outdo Nick Chubb in fantasy points in PPR platforms. That is my prediction. It is a hot take, but it's realistic. So when I'm saying stuff like this, it means don't draft Nick Chubb, guys. You can get Kareem Hunt later. Think outside the box. Make smart decisions. And finally, this one's a good one. Number 17. Currently right now, Evans and Godwin are both sitting in the top 10. My bold prediction is only one wide receiver will finish in the top 10 amongst both of those. And I know it doesn't seem too hot, but trust me, it is. I'll tell you why. Because right now, I'm doing every mock draft I'm doing. I see Godwin come off in the second round. I see Evans come off in the third round. It's like clockwork. So what I'm telling you is this. One of them is going to emerge. Not both, but one of these guys is going to emerge. You got to decide which one. It's a coin toss. I'm going to make the decision for you right now if you want me to. I say stay away from both these guys. Trust me, when you look at it, if you look at Brady, he only had one wide receiver that emerged on his team. It was Edelman, right? So he's going to gravitate to one guy. In this case, I think it may be Godwin. But if you grab, the reason why, the consensus, the consensus, the sheep mainstream only have both these guys in the top 10. They both have them in the top 10 because they're confused. Because Godwin finished second in PPR, and they're like, okay, well, Godwin finished second. We got to copy and paste it. He's got to finish top 10 again, right? They're doing that, but Evans is technically the wide receiver one on the team, so they're confused. This is where the consensus is kind of like, bah. They're really confused, right? So to solve this problem, because I'm uncertain too as to who's going to finish, because we don't know. New offense, new quarterback, new situation, different situation, right? They've also got tight ends that catch the ball. They've got, if you look at Brady, he threw the ball 94 targets to James White with the Patriots, okay? So, Rojo, Keyshawn Vaughn, all these guys catch the ball. So you look at the entire situation, you ask yourself, hey, okay, this is really weird. I'm going to stay away. I'm not investing second or third round draft capital on uncertainty like that, especially when you should be going robust RB in the first 3 rounds anyway. So I'm staying away. Okay, that's my prediction. I'm going to stay away from that situation. And guys, that's it, man. That's all I got to say to you. Those are 17 amazing hot takes. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Leave your fantasy questions below. And again, hot takes that could actually happen. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. And of course, follow FTFN on Twitch, guys. It'll help you guys get the best possible news analysis from the best guys in the industry. I'm excited about that. Subscribe, thumbs up, leave your questions below, and follow me on social. Thanks for being here, guys. I am out.